Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of the Artsy Raven. Today, our special guest is Kit Daven. So, Kit's heart beats for the eerie and the extraordinary in her tales. Even her sci-fi fantasy series, which begins with the Forgotten Gemstone, unfolds in the Other Castle, and accumulates in the Starry Rise, possesses demonly threads running through the trans-dimensional landscape. Her most recent work, The Arrest in Mannequin Row, steps out of the fantasy realm into an urban one, where the living and dead collide in a town beneath the lake waters. Kit enjoys spending her time with her husband and her feline familiars amidst the quiet hills of Okay, you have to help me out with this one. Hespeler,
Hespeler,
Ontario?
Hespeler, Ontario. You got
Okay,
it.
I've never
You
been
got it.
there. Okay. So welcome, Kit.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So today we want to talk a little bit about AI and writing since that seems to be the hot topic. Like everyone's talking about that.
hmm
Um, so have you used AI to help you? Like, okay, let's maybe we should talk in the beginning. Like, so initially, how did you write, and then how did you find out about these tools?
Okay. So, writing, I'm a combination of being an outliner and an intuitive writer. If you want to use the plotter and pantser terms, I'm kind of like in the middle. So I do both. I find that I do a lot of developmental writing, but I still need some part of the process to be a discovery. I've kind of found my happy place with the two approaches. But what I do have difficulty with is drafting. My first drafts take forever, especially the longer the project, right? And I have a hard time. Um, I have ideas and they all come out at once, and then I have to kind of make some sense of the chaos. And that's where I found AI really helped me, was with speeding up the drafting process. Um, if I have all these notes that I know that need to go in like this scene, I can go to AI and go, this is what I need to do in this scene. Suggest an outline or suggest a approach for presentation, and it will give me some. And then what happens is I end up going through what the AI suggests, and I'm like, nah, nah. Oh, I like that. Nah, nah. I don't like that at all. But it gives me something to it gives me something to bounce my brain off of. So AI for me has become a sounding board. And that way I'm not bugging my husband. I'm not bugging my friends who are all really busy, like I can get to work and work on something really fast and not have to wait a day or 2 days to talk to somebody. So it's become a sounding board, and it's become this really wonderful productivity tool for me. And it's really sped up a lot of things for me because of having that access um, s- to its data, if you will. It's just been really helpful in that way, for my process. I mean, it's helped in other ways too, but overall, that's generally how it's been helpful.
So, how did you find out about these tools? Like, do you just Google and you try out different ones? Because there or a dozen, like when you look up like writing AI tools, like there's so many out there. Like there's some
Yeah.
are free and some are not. So I'm just not sure which ones are good to use.
I really don't know a lot about, like, every time I turn around, there's like a new AI for something, right? And but what like in one of my writing groups, Chat GPT came up quite a bit. And so at the time, they did not have, it was just still in beta mode. So it was still free, but there was such a huge waiting list for it. You couldn't really sign up and start with it right away. You had to wait until you could get in, right? And then they launched their Chat GPT 4, which is their premium service. and that you have to actually pay for. And that's where you get like a stronger, more enriched art AI experience. And they also have something called DALL-E, which I believe is AI art, but don't quote me on that.
Images. Yeah. No, it is
Yeah,
for
images,
images. Yes.
and they offer some other things as well, right? And excuse me. Sorry, just to let you know that we're gonna have an interruption by a cat soon.
Yeah.
Um, so
So what's
yeah,
your
there's
favorite?
like
What's your favorite
what
tool to
for
use? AI tool. Yeah.
well, right now, ChatGPT,
ChatGPT.
which
Okay.
3.5, which is the free version. I am in a point where I don't pay money for anything if I don't have to.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's the joy of being a house owner and being in debt. Uh, um, but I've been hearing really good things about another AI coming out. It's available in the US and other parts of the world called Claude. It's not available in Canada yet. I did try to go on there with VPN, but it acknowledged it could still tell I was in Canada. So I am on a waiting list for that. So when it does become available in Canada, and I'm gonna try that out because I've been hearing really good things about how it's good at writing marketing material, like
Yes.
story blurbs and blog content and stuff like that.
Okay. There
You
was
know,
one I was looking up called Pseudo, right? That's gotten a
pseudo.
lot of attention for helping people finish novels. And I listened to some webinars, but that one you do have to pay for. And it sounds like,
Yeah.
yeah, the more you use it, the more you pay for it. But you still
Yeah.
also have to put a lot of your own content. And I mean, it's not just going to write everything for you. I don't think we're at
Oh
that
gosh,
stage.
no, no,
So yeah,
no.
you still have to put quite a bit. I mean, how do you think AI will affect the future of writing? I think a lot of people are worried about writers, I guess, right now.
Well, I've been hearing that as well. And here's like the hardcore truth about the human race. There's always going to be people who are lazy and going to take advantage of things. We're in the same kind of a similar stage to as right now with AI when ebooks came out. We're figuring out the litigation, we're figuring out the ethics of this new presence in publishing. And AI is no different, really. The same thing happened with photography, I believe, when it came in. It was a disruption. And there was always all this dooms crying about how, oh, art's gonna die. And when ebooks came along, it was, oh, the print book is gonna die. No, what happened was it just shifted over. It just made us have more options, and there's still space for art, and there's still space for print books. And I just see that AI is just going to be one additional tool that we can use in not just writing books, but editing them and producing them. So,
Yes, yeah, editing is, I mean, I think that's the most expensive part of publishing is the editing,
yes.
really. So yeah, if they have AI for editing, that'll be
Yeah.
really awesome. Like those are some things that I don't like, like I can do it, but I don't like doing it. Same thing for like, the marketing blurbs and stuff that I don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do. So
Like just to give you an example, I recently did I'm working on a book right now, and I did the story blurb for it because I wanted to get the cover, like most of the cover art done, and I wanted the story blurb for the back. And I went to AI and I put in what the story was about, and I got it to give me a draft. And then I took that draft and I went through it and I pulled out what I liked and then wrote around that.
mhm.
And then I still wasn't where I wanted. I must have done 5 or 6 drafts. And then I put that draft into ChatGPT and I said, "What do you think of this?" And it would give me feedback and
Oh,
suggestions,
okay.
right? And then I would go through and I'm like, AI is missing the ball on that one. Or,
Yeah.
it's not actually any different from using Pro Writing Aid. Like when
Mm,
you're getting suggestions and feedback on your writing, you kind of you're like, oh, that's a really good, I should correct that. But then it doesn't get it. There's something it doesn't get about the syntax that or what you're trying to do, right? And I did that, and I must have written about the story blurb about 10 times altogether. And then it finally came together with the right focus and the right um I was giving away too much at one point about the story, and then and then I wasn't giving away enough. And then finally it just kind of came together, and I didn't need to chat GPT anymore to tell me if it was good or not. You know it instinctively when you've got it, right? So,
Do you worry about any I know right now it's still new and people are taking hard stances. Like, do you think there's any ethical implications? Like some writers are suing, saying, it's my work you're using on this program and whatnot.
well, here's the thing. Um, this is why I don't do AI art. I'm very cautious about doing AI art. Is that I was playing around with Midjourney, and then all the crap happened around it pulling images from all over the internet without permission from
Hmm.
like the photographers and the artists. I had a problem with that. I had a very huge problem with that. There are plenty of artists who have no problem letting AI use their work, but it has to be a consensus. Like there has to be
An agreement.
so
Yeah.
an agreement there, whether there's money involved or not. There still needs to be an agreement. It can't be just like combing the internet and grabbing anything. Um, and I feel the same way about writing as well. Um, but we have to also keep in mind there are thousands of books in the public domain now,
Hmm.
and there's plenty that they can pull from that, like the AI can pull from
Yeah.
that. So I as for like I feel fairly confident using chat gpt because it's got such a um they're very open and transparent about where they pull their data from.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think as a writer, I think if you're aware, like do your due diligence, right?
Mhm.
On whatever software you're going to use. But it's there's I we live in funny times right now. But yeah, I do think about the ethics of it. And I also have to figure out where my line is
Yes.
and where if I'm comfortable stepping over it or not, right? So,
Yeah, because I was sort of thinking of trying the pseudo write out and about plagiarism. I think it said unless you put in like text from like Harry Potter or something, like it's not going to pull from other people's materials. I guess it's sort of like they do have a guideline for ethics, especially because it was created for writers. I think they're more careful about that. But yeah,
yeah.
it's just yeah, have to pay for it. So yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, so let's see. We talked about how we can use it to our advantage as a writer and ethics and okay. Do you think AI will make it easier or more difficult for writers to make a living? Mm,
To make a living,
hmm.
I might make it easier. Again, it depends on the writer. I don't make a living at my writing. I probably never
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah.
I don't. Uh, but I can see it as a tool for increasing productivity. And if you're the kind of writer who wants to put out a book every month, then yeah, I can see it being very helpful with writers making a living
Yeah, I
and
can.
keeping
Yeah.
costs down as well, right?
Yeah, I can also see more people putting together programs. Like every time I'm on Instagram, all my feeds are like, "Oh, become a millionaire," doing Amazon audiobooks. And then now it's probably going to be be like, write
Like
AI
the
books and,
AI.
become a
Oh no,
millionaire.
yeah, I could have swore I saw something like that the other day with
Yeah.
AI, and it's just like, yeah, well,
Yeah, I think the only person making money is the person doing the course that you're
yeah,
paying them
exactly.
for whatever. So I know people that have done that. They paid, I think, 5,000 to learn how to make a Kindle book. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, you
What?
could have given me the money. I could have just shown you how to upload the thing.
Yeah, I can show you how to do that,
But yeah,
buy
I
me
think,
dinner.
yeah, there is a market for people. I guess they don't feel like they have the confidence to do things themselves. And then,
Yeah, yeah.
oh gosh, they'll just pay the money, I guess. So. So what are you doing these days? Like, are you writing another book? Are you writing more short fiction or?
Yeah, I'm working on a book right now, getting it ready for publication. Back in our last summer, tried to write a short story, but it ended up growing into a novella, and it was I had it published, well, not published, but posted on Regan McCulley's 13 Horrifically Silly Days of Halloween, her blog series. And it was still kind of rough, but she didn't mind. And I took that, and it was one of those stories that just my brain was still going with it and was still, generating ideas. And what I'm doing is I'm taking it and I'm adding, and before anybody thinks that I'm like trying to bloat it or something, I'm not. It's just all this extra world building uh, that ties into backstories for characters in the story. And it's all this supplemental like narratives, but I'm presenting them not as writing, but in, well, it is writing, but it's epistolary in nature. So it's like magazine articles and email correspondence, and there's a thank you card, there's a comic strip. So it's all this extra content that's just, my brain is just needs to get out. And it is going to be a supplement to the story, and will add to the original story. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I've been using AI quite a bit for helping me with magazine articles and the newspaper articles, because I'm like, I can write something and I'll be like, does this sound like a newspaper article? I don't know, let's ask ChatGPT, you know. Pop it in and it gives me feedback and makes suggestions, and then I tweak, and then, oh, now I have a newspaper article. Right now I'm working on a magazine article. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I also got an iPad this year, and I've been learning Procreate, so I've been getting back into drawing. And one of the things that I'm working on right now is a comic strip that's been drawn by an 8 or 9-year-old boy. And yeah, I showed Sean, my husband, who's an artist. I said, does this look like it's been drawn by a kid? And he's like, yep. So I'm having a lot of fun with that right now.
Cool. Okay, now before you start your reading, do you have any final thoughts on the future of AI and writing?
I think people need to, I think if there are writers out there who are really on the fence about whether to not they want to use AI or not, just think about where you draw the line when it comes to ethics. Just do your due diligence on the AI software that you want to use, like the service. And also remember that it is just a tool. At the end of the day, you're the one making the decisions. It's just giving suggestions the way any beta reader would or any editor would. Um, and because when it comes to, I've used it for idea generation. I've done it for idea development. It helped me develop the premise for the story that I just wrote, called Every Day is Halloween. It's helped me a little bit with outlining, research. Tremendous tool for taking targeted research and make it even more focused than ever. I've used it for quite a bit now. I've had it help me come up with titles, because if you have weaknesses as a writer, and one of mine is like coming up with titles, AI is perfect for that.
Yeah. Okay.
So why spend an hour, 10 hours trying to come up with a title when AI can do it in like 2 minutes, right? So
Okay, cool. Okay, Kit, you're going to do a reading for us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're reading and the context?
the story I'm reading from today is called Every Day is Halloween. It's set in a world, it's a fiction story, creepy, quirky, set in a world where one Halloween the dead came back and they decided to stay and are oppressing the living. Everyone is forced to wear costumes. And the section I'm reading, of course, is the beginning of the story. Esther knelt before the retaining wall and clipped off 6 new tulip blooms before their tangerine blush drew unwanted attention to her home. She wasn't the only one who worried about the flowers, though. None of the other houses on Wolf Street bothered to garden after the first week of spring. Her bestie, Rebecca, who lived a few houses down, had helped her parents dig up all their rose bushes. In Rebecca's words, "Frickin' no way we're chopping off every flower as soon as it blooms. My mom will be in tears all the time." Farther down, where Wolf Street dead-ended at the edge of a jetty of trees, even Hope Cemetery looked dreary. The caretakers had removed flowers and wreaths from every gravesite. It was safer that way. Less to worry about. Less work. For Esther, the risk of nurturing the tulips was worth the effort. This way she could enjoy, however briefly, a remnant of the world that existed before Halloween had come to town last year, before Halloween came to stay. She just had to be quick about disposing the blooms. Each bloom she cut fell and rolled gently over the ground, remaining vibrant after its decapitation. It's not right, them dying this way. They ought to go on their own way, in their own time, like nature intended, Esther thought bravely. She scratched at the skull mask covering her face, knowing she'd never say those words out loud. Not now, at least not until Halloween ended. Esther wished life didn't have to be this way. She missed walking with Rebecca to school, joking and laughing and acting like fools. Now, if they didn't want to be bused or driven to school, they had to walk in groups. They had to look over their shoulders, be mindful of every little thing they did or said or wore as they walked past the cemetery's back gate. Whenever they started down the dirt path at the end of the road, they had to rush angst-filled through the woods to avoid encounters. Only when the path veered away from the cemetery's iron fence and exited onto Hazel Street did they feel relief. And they always had to be dressed in some kind of Halloween costume, so they wouldn't get heckled or yelled at, pinched, punched, or worse. This morning, no one wandered the streets. This absence had provided Esther a rare opportunity earlier, before the decapitations. She'd snapped a photo of the tulips with her emergency phone and returned it to a secret pocket in her black robe. Later, after school, she would settle down with her laptop, her preferred device for communication, and share the image with her friends. Eternalizing the blossoms on their stalks this way wasn't quite the same as enjoying them in real life, but it was close enough. A stirring in the bush beside her neighbor's garage. Mishu, a skinny black cat, crawled stiffly out from beneath the branches and limped toward her. The cat stopped at the retaining wall and leered at the row of rigid headless stems among the others tipped with fat buds, ready to bloom in the next day or two. Esther counted the buds, a dozen more blooms to be had, a dozen more rectangular holes to dig, each with its own pile of dirt next to it, little graves big enough to hold one blossom. Mishu wheezed a raspy growl of disgust. With a shiver, Esther did her best to ignore Mishu's dissatisfaction. I'm safe. The pumpkins on the stoop are holding it together. They haven't rotten entirely yet. To be sure, she glanced at them over her shoulder. Squirrels had gnawed at the eyes and mouths, creating irregular shapes. The sacred symbols carved on the inside, however, remained whole and functional, protecting the front door to her house. Other sigils marked the windows along the side of the house, and an altar in the backyard shielded the back door. Tomorrow morning, I won't bother to take a picture of the tulips. I'll just get on with the beheadings. Maybe if I get up early enough, Misha will be clawing at Mrs. Avery's door. Or maybe she'll be wandering all the way down at the other end of the street, past Rebecca's place, past Devish's. I'll make more time with the tulips. I will. But Mishu was here, now, staring at her. On impulse, Esther clasped the chin of her mask. She meant to push it upwards a bit on her sweaty face, but stopped herself. The skull mask hid most of her features, except for her eyes, clear and bright, a dead giveaway that she was very much alive. Mishu didn't seem to notice. Or maybe you don't care. Just as long as we all look dead, that's enough, right? One of these days, Esther promised herself, I'll move my mask around, see if you'll screech and make the dead come running, or maybe you'll attack me. Esther hiked the robe's threadbare sleeves past her elbows so they wouldn't snag on the bricks in the retaining wall. The long sleeves of the black jersey she wore beneath revealed painted bones on the fabric that were cracked and faded and needed repainting soon. Esther endured the scrutiny of Mishu's milky almond eyes as she gathered up the decapitated blossoms and laid them in their individual graves. One by one, she covered each with a pile of loose dirt, then gently patted the mounds flat. Mishu purred with delight, a raspy, unearthly sound. Say words. Esther's breath hitched. Hairs on the back of her neck prickled. Hearing Mishu speak human words again unsettled her, and Esther flushed with a warm kind of fear. Her instinct to cool down dulled her reasoning at first, but she stopped herself from doing anything dangerous. Instead, she pulled the sleeves of her black robe back down, adding an extra layer of protection and security. Weird. Why would she want to give last rites to a flower? Esther thought. Culling the tulips, burying them. That was important. By squashing out life, she proved to Mishu that she shared this value with the cat, even if deep down she didn't. Otherwise, Mishu and her friends might swarm her house like they had the day after Halloween last year. Esther, get your butt down here. The donuts will be gone if we don't get to the market 5 minutes ago. Esther flew down the stairs, slipping into her favorite fall jacket. She patted the front pocket, felt the outline of the phone there. I want to kiss Carter. The thought popped out of nowhere as she tugged on a pair of red and white Vans and laced them up. Weird. I mean, there's cuter guys, right? Esther's mother led the way out the front door onto the stoop. Esther followed her and shut the door, sucking in a breath of cold air while listening to the whir of the locking mechanism behind her. She admired the pile of leaves in the side yard that she raked into a bigger pile whenever more leaves fell from the trees. Also impressive was the pumpkin she and her mom had carved together. It sat beside the stoop looking dopey with its wide, toothy smile and perfectly slanted eyes. She waited for her mom to climb down the step toward the car in the driveway, but her mom stayed on the stoop. Mom, what the? Esther peered around her mother and gawped at the strange-looking people dressed in old clothes, dirty clothes. They trailed out of the back gate of the cemetery and along the street. Grief ringed their eyes. Must have been a big funeral, Esther mumbled, until a man dressed in a black suit and a top hat turned slightly. Tiny beams of sunlight sliced through his body. Mom? Esther tugged on the back of her mother's jacket. Mom? Why can I see through that man? Mom? Mom! The procession shambled toward Mrs. Avery's house first, her property being the closest. Esther watched her English teacher squatting in front of the bay window there, yanking out weeds. The closer the cemetery people got to her, the more they perked up. When the man in the top hat was within arm's reach, Mrs. Avery jumped up, yelped, and ran back into the house like she was a young girl again. Esther's mother gasped, but back in the house. Across the street, the people in the procession heard her. They turned to stare at her. Some walked toward her, others flew across the ground. Esther clutched her mom's jacket. Now, Esther! Esther spun around. Her fingers hovered before the keypad. Her mind blanked. Unlock the door! Esther! Esther couldn't remember the key code. Say words, Mishu's voice, more forceful this time. Esther didn't think it was possible to say last rites for flowers, but she knew better than to deny the request. After a deep breath, another giveaway of her being alive, Esther whispered, "Rest in peace." Mishu's wide eyes made a soft, sandpapery sound when she blinked her approval. Then, as though losing interest, her gaze wandered away from Esther and toward Mrs. Avery's house across the street. The black cat stood with a creak and limped down to the sidewalk, the tip of a thigh bone jutting from her haunch. Dried blood matted the fur along her ribcage. Esther estimated Mishu had been dead for as long as she'd been reported missing to the Hope Times by Mrs. Avery, about 2 weeks now, and by the looks of her, probably hit by a car. And that is the end of the first section.
Thank you very much, Kit, for being on our podcast. So I
Yeah,
look
thank you for
forward
having me.
to reading more of your works, and maybe more of your books will come out.
Yeah. No, it's been a while since I've done a podcast, so thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
For more upcoming episodes of the Artsy Raven about writing and publishing, visit us at jfgarage.com/arpodcast. A reminder to Patreon subscribers that there is bonus content available for every episode on the Patreon website. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your appreciation by buying us some digital coffee. The Artsy Raven is produced by J.F. Garrard. The voice in the show's introduction is Chris Gorman, and music is by Tim Moore. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.